Hi there, it's Sarah Clayton here at the Goldsmith Centre. My job is to help people to understand how and why the body changes shape in relation to the lying posture. And I wanted to spend some time today thinking about windsweeping, because windsweeping is something that we hear a lot, and it's something that's really fundamental to understand if you're going to be protecting your child or the person that you love or the person that you support as they grow or as they, when they're in bed. So the first thing to think about is the idea of symmetry. So if somebody is symmetrical, when we measure somebody's body symmetry, the first thing that we look for is whether they can achieve a position like this. Okay, so we're looking to see that they can lie on their back and they can bend their legs to a certain position and to lie nice and straight like that. So imagine that their legs are bent. I don't have enough hands. What we look for is to see what's happening at the pelvis. So in somebody who's symmetrical, we would expect the pelvis to be level, and we measure to these two little knobbly bits on the front of your pelvis. They're called the aces. So what we're looking to see is, are they level? And we're also looking to see is the sternum in the centre of the chest. So we don't measure round the supporting surface. So that's a really dodgy measure. What we do is we measure to the lateral border. So we measure to the edge of the chest, and we see whether the sternum is central. So back to windsweeping. Windsweeping occurs. So this is, we're thinking here about really simple classic windsweeping. So what happens is the legs fall over to one side. And over time, if you try this, when you take your legs over to one side, then your pelvis will follow, okay? And you can go the other way and your pelvis will follow. But actually what happens in somebody that does this for very, very long periods of time, their legs will go over to one side, and at first the pelvis follows. But over time, the pelvis actually drops back. So we end up with a flattening. So the legs are going one way, but the pelvis is actually rotating in the opposite direction. Now the chest, and you can try this in the privacy of your own home, all you need to do is to lie on your back, take your legs over to one side, and what you'll find is that the chest usually follows the knees. And that's what we see in classic windsweeping. So the legs go one way, the pelvis goes in the opposite direction, but the chest will follow the legs. So what we end up with is somebody who has different rotation in the pelvis and the chest, and it becomes very difficult then, once we bring that person up, to be able to seat them comfortably. So that's classic windsweeping. We're going to go on in the next video to have a look at windsweeping when we lie somebody in side lying.